Welcome to Love Lattes, the podcast designed for women who are ready to stop settling and start living a life full of authentic love, confidence, and real connection. I'm your host, Victoria, the self-love scientist, speaker, and coach, and I'm here to help you reclaim your power, deepen your relationships, and fall unapologetically in love with yourself. So grab your tea, your latte, or your favorite beverage, and let's get started.
Today, we're talking about something that affects far more women than we realize, and that's narcissistic abuse and the journey of reclaiming your voice after it. What are the subtle red flags that we often miss? How do you rebuild your confidence after emotional manipulation? And what does it truly look like to heal and love yourself again once you walk away from something toxic? To help us explore this, I'm joined by Jordan Murphy, host of the five-star podcast, Her Voice Matters, and founder of Her Voice Matters Academy. Through her work, Jordan helps women heal after narcissistic abuse and rebuild their confidence, credit, and future. Jordan, welcome to Love Lattes.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, Jordan. And I'm so excited. And you, even on your platform, like sharing your own personal experiences and journeys and watching you become the empowering leading woman in narcissistic abuse is so inspirational. So thank you so much for taking the time to be with me today.
Absolutely.
To kind of kick things off, I feel like the word narcissistic tends to have a lot of definitions. How would you define that term?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that one of the best ways to explain what a narcissist actually is someone that has this excessive focus on themselves. They're absolutely careless. Like they do not care if you fall asleep, or if they will fall asleep peacefully next to you while you're just like bawling your eyes out over something. They have no empathy whatsoever. They have a very strong need for admiration, and they constantly want to be praised and love
Mm.
titles. So like, let's say they have this career to where they work in, I don't know, let's just say they're a mechanic or something like that. And you will go to an event, but they pull out all of these different titles whenever they're introducing themselves to other people, like titles that you didn't even know that they even were, if that makes sense, just because they're looking for that praise and attention from people, being like, oh wow, like that's amazing that you do this. But they don't realize that that person is a completely different person behind closed doors. Like they look like a saint in public, but behind closed doors, it just seems like you're facing a demon head on, if that makes sense. That's the best way I would describe a narcissist.
Yeah, no, that's terrible. It's like wearing a mask.
Literally, it is.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so what are the subtle signs that anyone might be in a narcissistic relationship?
I would say a trauma bond. So a trauma bond is you have very, very high highs and very low lows. So for example,
Mhm.
you'll get addicted to this trauma bond to where maybe they're lying, they're cheating, they might turn you down for sex multiple times over and over again because they have a porn addiction and they just don't give a shit about you. And um sorry, re-ask the question. Sorry. I looked at my notes and got distracted.
It's okay. It's okay. So what are the subtle signs that you or anyone might be in a narcissistic relationship?
Okay, I was talking about trauma bonds. I'm so sorry. My face is so red right
It's
now.
okay.
Trauma bonds. So you get very addicted to the highs and lows. So you might have 6 bad days and then one good day, which gives you that hope that you
Mm.
keep holding on. And then before you know it, they're repeating that same pattern that you told them over and over again is hurting you. And you're begging them to quit doing that. You've verbally told them what you need. You're doing the best that you can, but the truth is you can never make something work with that type of person. So you will constantly feel like something's off. Your intuition is
Mm.
going to tell you that something's just not right. And your intuition is always right. So make sure that you listen to that, because your body's going to know that something is off before your brain even comprehends what's going on. So several signs for me personally, like I started taking naps every single day, and that was not like me at all. My hair was falling out like crazy. I started breaking out in rashes. Some women get like extreme UTIs and acne, and then whenever they leave, all that stuff just like goes away. Their hair stops falling out. And I'm like, oh, wow, it really wasn't me. I thought that it was me. Obviously, I'm not perfect, but I thought that it was me for a short period of time. And then I just realized it was the environment that I was in that was literally mentally, physically making me sick. And all I had to do was just walk away. So, like, I feel like the biggest sign that you are in a narcissistic relationship is like, what type, like, what is this environment doing to you? And you
Mm,
physically, if something feels off, it is off. And I physically felt like I was just somebody else's wife. And I was like, I don't belong here at all. Something just feels off. And there's this heaviness too whenever you're around that person. Um, Once again, they make themselves out to be someone they're not. It is literally like they wear a mask, but in the beginning, they will make themselves out to be everything you've always dreamed of. You're like, oh my gosh, like this is everything I've been looking for. You know, this is my
yeah.
dream guy, dream girl, whatever. And then before too long, you begin to see like these toxic patterns. But by then, you're typically emotionally invested, sexually connected to where it's even harder for you to just walk away. And they keep saying that they're going to change and get together, but they don't.
Mm.
So does that answer your question? Give you a
Oh,
pretty,
for sure. Like, no, I think that's very powerful and super potent, especially for people to understand. Like, I think a lot of women will probably relate to the fact that when you're with someone and whenever you're in a relationship, it's not about, the shiny cars and the nice handbags. It's how do you feel when you're around them or when they leave the room? Like you said, like what is happening to your nervous system? Like I myself, like we chatted earlier, I was like, if my nervous system is feeling anxious or out of whack, and that's not the normal, there is something we need to, look a little bit deeper into what is actually happening. So that was a really, really good list about, exactly. It's like it's no longer like what it is they're doing, but it's what is happening to you. And I think you said it really well. What is this environment doing to me? And it kind of leads into the next question I was thinking about when you said, now that there's this realization, um, and you mentioned like you'll have six bad days, 6 bad days, one good day. That reminds me of the term of breadcrumbing, you
Mhm.
know, and I remember reading this somewhere where it's like you start noticing like you're starving for the relationship, the intimacy, the attention, the things you need. And then, for some women, like that's really hard. So why do you think women, even though they're having these 6 bad days or 5 bad days and just 2 good ones and they're soaking up everything, why are they still staying? Knowing that that's you know, even when we talk about it, you and I have all been in like very similar situations where it's like, we soak in those 2 good days, but then at some point we made the decision. So how do women like why is it that it does take a long time to break that? Because it's hard.
It's very hard. For me personally, I was afraid that if I didn't give him more time, that he was going to become the man I needed him to become for the next girl. So
Mm,
that's why I stayed longer than I should have. And there was actually a time to where he did tell me that like you can go ahead and leave now if you want, but you're going to miss out on the change whenever I change type of thing.
mm,
You know, nobody should ever abuse you, lie to you, sexually assault you, do all these bad things to you in the first place. Like if someone genuinely loves you, they wouldn't do that, you know?
mhm,
So I'm just like, if you were going to change, you would have already changed, like, especially after I've given you chance after chance after chance. But I think another reason why women stay and just don't leave because of the trauma bond. They're addicted to the good days and the bad days and getting that the next hit of dopamine. Like so, like whenever you do try to leave or whenever you do leave, you might just want to call them or you just want to be held by them and you're like, what the hell? Why do I want to be cuddled by the person who abused me or treated me so wrong? it's literally because your brain just wants that next hit of dopamine, and it's equivalent to coming off of a drug addiction whenever you leave. So that's why
Yeah.
it's so hard. So whenever I see women leave toxic relationships, I'm like, man, like if you can do that, you can do anything, because it takes so much courage to just walk away. And I think
Yeah.
for me personally, like, man, I feel so rich in life, and it's not because of money, but it's because I had the courage to walk away from that, because that's really freaking hard.
Yeah, exactly. And I appreciate you making that reference to like the withdrawal feelings. It's like going through death or a different version of a breakup where, you have to cut everything off at the root. Like you can't even, say I'm leaving. I mean, like you got to block everything. You got to take the trash out. You got to do it all because those little reminders, like you said, it gives you that hit, or they might try to reach out and then you're right back in that cycle.
Exactly. It's so hard. Like it physically feels like whenever you're in a trauma bond, you might have like this escape plan to just leave, and you're like, okay, I'm going to leave for good. I'm going to leave this day. And then maybe they run you a hot bubble bath and bring you flowers and say all these sweet things to you. And it physically feels
Mm.
like someone's behind you, and they have like their arms wrapped around you, and they're squeezing you so tight to where like you just can't get out. Like you physically, like the door is right there, but you just feel like you just can't walk out, is the best way
Yeah.
to describe it, I feel like.
Yeah, and like you said earlier, they say it, they suddenly are doing it, and you're like, oh, okay, like this is a sign, like I can stay and I can be the woman, or I feel like they have potential, and it's like, let me
Exactly.
stop you right there.
It's really freaking hard.
So with, let's say, we get to the point where it's like, okay, I'm ready, I'm out the door, I'm cleaning, and I'm leaving this relationship. How can a woman especially begin rebuilding herself and her confidence and the love she has after leaving some kind of or experiencing that kind of abuse or relationship?
We'll be back after a quick break.
I've been thinking a lot about patterns lately, especially the ones that show up in our relationships. For a long time, mine looked like overgiving, people pleasing, and convincing myself that if I shrink myself down just a little bit smaller, I would be enough. But knowing a pattern and actually breaking it are two very different things. And trying to untangle that alone can feel overwhelming. That's where therapy can help. Having outside support can help you recognize your patterns without judgment and make choices that actually support you. And that's why I'm grateful for today's sponsor, BetterHelp. BetterHelp makes therapy more accessible by connecting you with a licensed therapist online so you can get the right support in a way that fits your life and your schedule. Love and Latte listeners can get 10% off their first month of therapy by going to betterhelp.com/love and lattes or by clicking the link in today's episode description. Breaking cycles isn't about fixing yourself, it's about learning to love yourself differently.
Yeah, that's a great question. And honestly, it's really freaking hard, I feel like, to find those resources. Literally figure out like how do you rebuild your life? How do you get your confidence back after someone utterly destroyed it? And I believe that you have to figure out, you have to ask yourself, who do you want to become? Like, who do you aspire to be? And you're not just going to wake up one day and become that girl. I learned that the hard way. I was like, okay, I have to start acting like the future version of myself now. So I started doing little things every single morning to that really just made my soul feel the most alive. I would go for a short walk, get out in the sun, even if it was just for 2 minutes a day, if it was super cold out. Going to the gym, really paying attention to what I was consuming, music, the TV, the food I was consuming, just paying attention to how people would make me feel. Like, do they make me feel amazing after I leave them, or do they make my soul feel dead inside and depressed whenever I leave because I feel awful, And really just paying attention to how people make you feel, because I feel like who you have in your corner whenever you're rebuilding your life is crucial, because I feel like that's going to dictate, that has a lot to do with who you become over the next few years, who you actually have in your corner. So I feel like whenever it comes to rebuilding your confidence, that there's something called mirror work, and it's whenever you look yourself in the mirror, and it's really just self affirmations, to where you're saying, I'm beautiful, I'm worthy of love, I am intelligent, I deserve wealth, things like that. There's a book called Mirror Work on Amazon. I forget the name of the author, but I think there's only like one on there that's called that, and that is what really helped me gain my confidence back, because I used to hate myself. I used to only think I was pretty with makeup on, because that's what I was told growing up. I was only told I was beautiful if I had makeup on. So then whenever I got with a man that looked at me like I was utterly disgusted, that he was utterly disgusted whenever I was in like lingerie, I'm like, man, I just feel like shit. Like I feel so awful about myself. So I started doing the mirror work, looking myself in the mirror, saying like, I love you, Jordan, you're beautiful, even though I didn't believe it. But what it does is it tricks your brain into eventually believing it, because your brain will, it's always eavesdropping on your self-talk. So if you tell yourself you're ugly, you're going to believe that, and you're going to walk around like that. But if you tell yourself that you're beautiful, your brain is going to believe that as well. And then before you know it, you're going to be looking yourself in the mirror and believing every word that you're telling yourself, that you're beautiful, I love you. And I'll never forget whenever I looked myself in the mirror and believed every word of that. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I just started crying, because I'm like, I literally love myself, because I'm like, here I am, this girl that went through a divorce, grew up in church, and it just seemed like it was, my life was over, is really what it seemed like. And I blamed and shamed myself for a long time, but I'm like, you know what? Like, that's not my fault. Nobody ever gets married just to go through a divorce, or in a relationship just to be abused, but it is my responsibility to heal from that. So that was a huge part of my healing journey, is the mirror work, for sure.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, I've been practicing mirror work for a very long time, and I remember the first time I said I love you to myself, and I laughed because I was like, that's so silly. And then I started bawling like a baby because I realized this was the relationship and the feeling and the belief that I had been looking for, and it changes everything. And next thing you know, you own that mirror. You own all those affirmations.
Yes, you do.
So
That's
I think that's wonderful. I'm so glad you brought up mirror work. And so when women are so we've left, the relationship. We've we're stepping into this new version of ourselves. We're really fixing who's in our social circles and communities. And now we're at the point we're rebuilding, we're happy, or we're getting to that point. Um, what what are some ways where women can re-enter the dating scene, or let's say they enter a relationship without feeling triggered by what they experienced in the past? Because I think it can be hard to put yourself back out there after experiencing something like that.
for sure. Yeah. I'm just going to speak from personal experience, because I'm not like an expert in this specifically, but what I can tell you is that you're going to have a ton of triggers, just because even if you're coming out of a toxic, abusive, narcissistic relationship, and then if you end up, hopefully you end up in a healthy relationship, first off, your body's going to freak out, because you're not used to that. Your nervous system is used to chaos, and you might just even be looking for that next high and low, to where you're also experiencing like that sexual passion because of that, the high highs and low lows with that person. So whenever you get with someone who's just like steady and not putting you through cycles, your body is like, what is going on? And you will probably want to run away. I personally wanted to run multiple times, because I'm like, something, I was just waiting for something bad to happen. So
Oh,
I had to tell myself, you're safe, Jordan, you're safe, you're safe, you're safe. And eventually I ended up tricking my brain into believing that as well. But I believe that there's so many triggers, and I had triggers that I didn't even know I even had until I got into like another relationship, because I'm like, oh my gosh, like I used to get so frustrated because of triggers, but then I'm like, wait, no, like this is actually making me a better person, because this shows me parts of me that are unhealed that I had no idea about. So whenever that happens, I'm facing that head on and addressing that, like, okay, why am I feeling this way? um But I believe that definitely pay attention to that. You should pay attention to like how you feel around that person. And
Mm.
don't, like, if your hair starts falling out, you're getting anxious around that person constantly. I think that's normal, like in the beginning, to get anxious about going out like on the first date and stuff like that. But if it like never goes away, like you went on multiple dates with this person, it's probably your nervous system giving you a sign that like that person is just not good for you.
Yeah. No, these are really good. And you made a really good point, which I'm curious about what you think this might mean. You know how some people get into a relationship or they're dating, and then suddenly they call it like the if you go from being in something so chaotic and so toxic, and suddenly they'll consider this other relationship boring or quiet, and they're
Mhm.
not used to it, and they start spiraling. That's what it kind of reminded me of what you were saying earlier. It's like, I don't know, like I feel like, are you mad at me? Like, do you hate me?
Oh, that's the perfect way to explain it. Yeah, just because it just seems so unfamiliar because you're not used to peace.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah,
my gosh, that's wild.
scary.
I think I've seen a lot of that on social media lately is like we're so adept, or we're so used to the chaos and the, having to just work really, really hard or pour ourselves into this and thinking like, am I doing the right thing? Am I not doing enough? And then we finally get to the point where someone's finally like meeting us at that level, giving you the love you deserve, but we're like, hey, now, whoa, 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 like
Exactly.
I cannot do that.
I understand.
Oh, it makes me sad sometimes, but I
Yeah,
think it's definitely like you have to be patient with yourself in that kind of moment.
absolutely.
Um, I don't think there's really a timeline when it comes to your healing journey. And like you made a good point too, there's going to be triggers. You're going to find yourself, you know, speaking of triggers, I do think relationships will trigger you. Um, and like you said, it is good to check in and ask yourself these questions or even have the conversation with the person you're seeing.
Sure.
So yeah, all around really good stuff.
Yeah, I feel like it's important too to have like a partner who understands why you are the way that you are, like why certain things trigger you, and that they are like very patient with you. Like they have to be patient with you. If you've went through all that shit, like you have to have someone who understands whenever you do get triggered, and to sit there with you to figure out why are you having a meltdown right now? Why are you pissed off? Like why are you so triggered? And get to the root of that, because chances are that that trigger doesn't even have to do with that person.
Mhm.
It has to do with something that happened, obviously, that you went through in the past that is unhealed, like an open wound, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I'm really glad you said that. I think you don't have to get into a relationship and like look for the fireworks or go in hardcore and fast, especially when you've had the experiences you did. And then being that person on the other end of it and creating patience and creating safety and letting them, being aware of that for them is absolutely beautiful. So I think that's a great reminder for anyone listening who might be that person, like, oh, I am dating someone who has been in these kinds of relationships, and this is how I can show up to be a better partner.
Absolutely. 100%.
Oh, awesome. Well, as soon as we close out the conversation, for if you wanted to share one last thing for our listeners, especially for the women, but also like for men, because I know this happens as well. What is something you would encourage them if they're in the middle of this kind of experience or situation, or they're coming out of it? What is something you would love to share? Because you yourself, you've experienced this, but you have been on a tremendous journey and you're putting your work out there. What is something that you would love people to know more about this?
I would say leave whenever you are ready. It doesn't matter what other people are telling you. Other people, like if you're in the middle of this, you know that you need to leave. Work on your escape plan, write it down in the notes in your phone, figure out what you need to do financially, what you need to do whenever it comes to like your living situation, whatever you need, write out the plan. And that doesn't mean that you need to leave today or tomorrow, even though you know that you need to. You will wake up one day and probably just start packing your stuff and not even know that you're even going to leave that day is the best way to describe it.
Hmm.
But I feel like you need to work on your exit plan, and don't take the ring off until you're ready. Don't leave until you're ready. Like, you will personally know yourself when you are ready, no matter how many times people are telling you to leave, because they don't understand what most people don't understand what you're going through. And there's
Yeah.
no reason to sit there and try and drain your energy to someone that doesn't have the emotional intelligence to understand what it's like to even be in your shoes. So just remember that, to work on your escape plan, and that in reality, at the end of the day, like, it's not you, it's the environment that you're in that's making you feel that way. That's why you feel like crap. That's why you feel ugly. That's why you feel unattractive. It's not you, it's the environment that you're in. And once you leave, you'll begin to realize how bad it really is. So,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah. I think just like you said earlier, when you have these physical experiences happening in your body and then your nervous system, and I do feel, and you can definitely let me know what you think. After a while, like you do start to have this experience of peace and your nervous system is going to start easing, even if it does feel a little like out of whack.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
I had that happen last year actually. I'm like, I was just out in the middle of nowhere. I was hiking actually all by myself, and it just hit me that I didn't have to worry about waking up the next day and being lied to or abused. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can actually freaking breathe now. And I'm like,
Mm,
something I physically, like, I literally feel like that was the day that, like, I don't even know how to describe it, but something in me just healed. And I feel like I just came out of like survival mode. Like, I have
mm,
still have triggers here and there and stuff like that, but yeah, one day you're just gonna wake up and realize like it was really freaking bad, and stop comparing what you're going through to somebody else's abuse and staying longer because you're like, oh, I don't have it as bad as she has it. Like, no, if you're
mm-mm.
hurting, if yeah, if you are hurting, regardless whether it's mentally, physically, that is valid. That is more than valid and enough for you to just walk away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, amazing. Jordan, thank you. Thank you so much for being on the podcast and sharing these amazing steps for anyone to move or to notice, especially, and to really feel that it's not their fault, and it is, you're like you are glowing and you are huge proof that it does take the courage to do something like that, to make the decision to leave a situation or relationship such as that. But and you are one of them. You are one of the women who is leading the movement towards this. And for everyone, after you listen to the podcast, in the show notes, I will have Jordan's podcast and all of her resources available. So please check them out. And as always, Jordan, thank you so much for being here. You are a inspiration, and I truly appreciate you. Thank
Thank
you.
you for having me.
And we'll see everyone else in the next episode.